Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time again for some Living Hope, a weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer. Sharing the real life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. With a woman, well, we keep saying it, she's dealt with it longer than most. The host with the most knowledge, that's what I say, Roberta Luna. Welcome back to the show here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back every week. I really appreciate it. I don't know if I know the most, but I certainly know a lot. Sometimes too much and sometimes not enough. But I'm very happy to be here, so thank you. Today I have a very special guest, JB Jaso. Yay, I said it right. I have problems with names. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your journey. I know this can be very emotional and even painful sometimes, but I think it's really important to put a name and a face to this disease. It's important to stress to people that we are humans, we're mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, uncles, grandparents, and not just a statistic. So, excuse me. Thank you for being here today. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm pretty excited to be here to share my story and everything, and appreciate everything you've been doing for this.
Oh, thank you. Before we start, can you just give us a little background on who you are and what you're doing?
So I'm JB Hasso, and I'm originally from Long Beach, California. I just spent the last 23 years in the military, so traveling the world, sort of making it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. It's a Michael Jackson song. So I came back. So I retired from the military, came back. So back here in Southern California, and super excited to be back here. And then have just recently assumed the role as the affiliate chair for the Orange County affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.
Yes, and thank you very much for that. I can't thank you enough. enough. And also, thank you for your service. That is greatly appreciated. So, thank you. When and how did you meet Tyler?
Tyler, yeah. So Tyler Nason, I first met him in 1995, and we had both were attending Long Beach Polytechnic High School in Long Beach, California, and we were both members of the cross country team. So I was 2 years older than him, so I was a junior when he was an incoming freshman, and at that point it was we had a smaller team, and we were starting to have some really fast and successful runners. And Tyler was part of a freshman team that was coming in very strong, very fast, very athletic, with a tremendous amount of talent. And then over that time, over the couple years that I remained there at Poly, we became really close friends over that time, both running cross country and track, spending a lot of personal time together outside of running, cycling and going around and doing different things that kids do. What was unique with Tyler's and my friendship, we had decided as runners in Long Beach, there wasn't a lot of running events in Long Beach. The Long Beach Marathon had just went away, actually, so they stopped running the Long Beach Marathon. So we would actually have to travel from Long Beach down here to basically Irvine in southern Orange County to do 5K and 10K runs. So we were I was like 15 years old, so he was probably 13. We're like, we had these childhood great ideas, and we decided to do this 5K, 10K run, which was pretty cool. So we teamed up together, and we got a group of adult volunteers, and we just went forward and organized the Bixby Knolls 5K, 10K run, which became Long Beach's largest running event. So our first year we had about 2,000 participants, and then our third year up to over 5,000, with a operating budget from starting at 35,000 to and eventually getting to 88,000. So little kids running around organizing this event, getting enough sponsors, and pushing forward to organize this run. Now it's dormant because obviously I moved on, went on to college, joined the military, and Tyler went to college, and so. Yeah, so I know that we're back. Everybody keeps trying to talk to me to do it again, but I don't think so.
Once was enough, huh?
That's right. Well, 3 times was enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know Tyler was very active. He did a lot of different things, a lot of different sports. What was it? Was running his favorite, or what was his favorite sport that he was involved in, do you think?
Oh, well, he had a lot of different things that he really enjoyed. And I think for him, Obviously, he was very successful in running, but soccer, he was really big into soccer. He loved soccer, all just playing it, and he had a very busy life. So in high school and even before that, playing soccer, so soccer practices, and then games on Saturdays, and then he was in Boy Scouts, made Eagle Scout, so he had Boy Scouts events going on, and then got in high school, got in the cross country, and was on the soccer team at Poly. So again, practicing constantly, and then Saturday cross country meets, and then he was in the band and played sack, and would do Friday night football games. So it's constantly busy, and just always very busy. And when he went over to UC Berkeley, so he went to Berkeley, and he remained athletic at that point. He was on the cross country team at UC Berkeley, and even at that point lived with all the cross country and track teammates in this track house, they called it. So it was like a frat house basically, but they described it as like a frat house but dirtier. And so
I think I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah.
As we're hearing about that.
So yeah, definitely.
Well, I know he was, like I said, very athletic, but as a young kid or as a young teen, what was he like? Was he like played jokes? I mean, was he pretty straight on the straight and narrow, or did he waver a little bit, or a little bit about him in that area?
No, he didn't. He would never do anything that would get him in trouble. But he definitely was an aggressive risk taker, I would say. Really challenged his mind and his body. And I think when we fast forward that to his diagnosis in the pancreatic cancer and his fight, that's the approach he took, that aggressive fight for it, and he had a bucket list of things, and he had written this bucket list, and I believe his mom and dad still have it, but he had a tremendous amount of things on this list, and he would just check them off as he went through. And one of the things he wanted to do on his bucket list, even as a little kid, was obviously make Eagle Scout, which he did, but he wanted to be a pilot. He wanted his private pilot's license, which he did. He went and got it, skydiving, you've done that. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things as a kid, he just came up with, a tremendous amount of things on a bucket list that, they still have that list to this day, which was pretty awesome that he was accomplishing quite a bit of that.
Yeah, so he really lived his life to the fullest. You hear that a lot, right? But he
definitely
definitely did. How did you find out? And I know, go a little bit, because I think one of the unique things about Tyler is the age that he was diagnosed. We met him in Advocacy Day in one year, and I was just, when I first looked at him, I actually thought he was like 12, 13 years old. He just looked so young. And to find out that he was a survivor, he was the first survivor at that age that I had met. So can you just go in a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so Tyler was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer July 5th, 2006. So when he was diagnosed, he was 25 years old. So he's healthy, athletic, really brilliant young man. Had just graduated from UC Berkeley, made it back down to Southern California, was working in the aerospace industry. And then, like I said, athletic, and he loved soccer. So he was out playing soccer one day, and he felt that he tweaked his muscle playing soccer, and he went up to do a header. So hit the ball with his head, and then he felt some hardness on the left side of his stomach. So after some scans and going through all that, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So he described it in his own words. It's hard to be a 25-year-old to think you're able to do whatever you want, and it's just all taken away from him. So at that point, at 25 years old, he had to focus on surviving. So everything that you think 25-year-olds are doing, going out, having a good time, partying, surfing, drinking, whatever, that was all taken away from him, and at that point he was engaged to his wife, his girlfriend at the time, Ava, and they had to make a decision after that diagnosis of, we probably need to get married soon. So like you, when you were diagnosed 19 years ago, this 5-year survivability was only 4%. And when he was diagnosed in 2006, the survivability was still 4%. To see no gains and no increase in survivability was really hard. And I think there was a point where he asked his mom, because he began chemo right away, and he asked his mom what she thought about the survivability rate. And his mom had said that she thought that he was one of the luckiest people she has ever known in her life, and that they would go forward and they would hope that his luck would last. And at basically it was that 4%, 5-year survivability. Luckily, he was able to make it 5.5 years before passing away. And he had a unique, as a patient, he had a unique experience in his 5.5 years being alive. He really took a aggressive approach. He had Dr. Bill Eisenkopf was his doctor and his oncologist, and they really took an aggressive approach, and they tried different chemos to try different things. One of the chemos temporarily limited his use of his legs. So there's portions where he had to be in a wheelchair, and then luckily they changed that chemo, so he was able to utilize his legs over time again. But then he had kidney failure, so was on dialysis. So there were just things that, with the medical treatment, he really took a priority and ownership of his treatment, and he would do whatever it took to survive. And there was a point where he said he would even cut off his legs if it meant for him to be alive and to survive. But during that, his mom always treasured every day. She said every day is a gift with him. And so as a survivor, he continued to do things that were normal. Dr. Eisenkopf said that, and they did it. He wrote it on a prescription note, and all he wrote was normal. He's like, do things that are normal. So he continued working at a point when he could. He did a hike down the Grand Canyon from the South Rim down to Phantom Ranch and back up as a survivor. He earned his private pilot's license. He did skydiving. He always wanted to drive some fast, I don't know, expensive car. I can't remember the name of the car, but he did that as a survivor. He pushed forward and went through. And Tyler's described, he said, the struggles and hard times of our lives really define our lives. It is only when you're challenged that you really rise to be more than yourself. And the challenge of pancreatic cancer for him, he really went after it and faced it head on, and he wasn't, because of a lesion on the liver, he wasn't a candidate for surgery. So he just had to, go off the chemo and whatever aggressive treatments that Dr. Eisenkopf had for him. So.
Yeah, he was a great role model. I mean, like I said, he never let anything stop him. He did everything, but he had a really great outlook on life as well. I mean, I don't think I ever saw him down. I mean, I didn't always see him in his worst times, but when he was in the hospital or went into the wheelchair, being able to walk during Advocacy Day and then being in a wheelchair, he just never let that stop him and let that change his perspective on anything. He was always very gung-ho and shared his story and was just, like I said, really, I mean, he was 25, and I won't say how old I was, but he was 25 and he was still an inspiration. I looked at him and thought, wow, this young man can do this. This gives me some hope that, I can continue as well. So he is just somebody that's just made a great impact on a lot of ours. And I know you spoke about when he was diagnosed, and when I was diagnosed, it was only 4%. When my dad was diagnosed in 1998, it was only 4%. And we had learned at that time that the statistics had not changed in over 40 years. So finally, when we got to that 5%, I mean, it was 1%, but we were like throwing a party and jumping because at least we were there. And now coming up to 10%, it's just still not good enough, and we need to do more, but we are trudging along and we're getting there. And part of that way that we do this is through our Advocacy Day, which very quickly, for people who don't know, now it's in June. We haven't this year. We did it virtually, but we go in person and talk to our members of Congress who fund these bills and help pass them and let them know what's going on and share our personal stories. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with Advocacy Day? I know, and how you got involved, because I don't think you intended to. So can you just give us a little bit background on that as well?
Yeah. So after Tyler was diagnosed in 2006, I was actually stationed in Hawaii at the time. Did a deployment overseas, and then made it back, and then I moved to Maryland. Was stationed in Maryland. So during that point, when Tyler was diagnosed, I just didn't think anything of it because I didn't know anything about pancreatic cancer or really anything about the pancreas itself. But I just assumed that he would be okay, and just he's young, athletic, he'll be fine, some chemo, and be back at it again, And so when I made it to Maryland, I had not really. I mean, I talked to Tyler here and there, but it wasn't like a lot. So he called me out of the blue one day, and this was in 2010, and he's like, "Hey, can you join me in Washington D.C.? The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network's doing some lobbying in D.C." He's like, "I think this is right up your alley, and my parents and I are going out there, so you can hang out with us." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sounds good." Didn't know anything about it. It was so I showed up to D.C., and it was a very small crowd, and as they were going through and introducing people, I just remember I don't even know if it was 200 people, if that, but this is back in 2010, and it was a very small crowd, and at that point is when I heard the 5-year survivability was only 4%. And the goal was by 2020 to raise or double that, which would have been 8%. But as we've talked about already, we've made it to 10%. So we did a little bit better. But what I learned was Advocacy Day was to drive legislation or legislative support for increased federal research funding and to help us raise the survivability. And what I learned as I went through that, as we talked a lot about with Tyler about my experiences in combat and then his experiences combating pancreatic cancer, we were both in a fight against the enemy. And I think we compared our fights and the challenges that we went through. So there's a lot of things that go through a soldier or a Marine or airman or a sailor when we're in a combat zone. There's a lot of things that go through our minds, a lot of emotional feelings, and before, during, and after. And that's the same things that happen to a cancer patient as well. There's a lot of emotional feelings before, during, and after, as you experience yourself, and not just the patient itself, but the family. And so I think as I got to see that during Advocacy Day and seeing the differences that we were making just in that one day that I went to Capitol Hill in 2010, that continued to motivate me to stay in that fight, to help Tyler, but not just help Tyler, but to help everybody else that was going through pancreatic cancer and future generations. So once Tyler passed away, I decided that this has been altogether a decade that I've been volunteering with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, that I wanted to do it to continue Tyler's fight against pancreatic cancer. So I've been to every Advocacy Day since 2010. Luckily, I was always on the East Coast, but it's been phenomenal. I've seen that grow from 2010 to maybe a couple hundred people to in a handful of survivors. To most recently just hundreds of people in massive conference rooms, and they just can't hold us anymore. And it's sad because like PanCan has to oh well, I'm sorry, we don't have space, you can't come. To some people, it's sad, but on the good hand or the good side, it's like we're super excited to see so many people and how we turn Capitol Hill purple. It's pretty awesome to see, and it's amazing.
It is, and it can be very overwhelming to see, like you say, to see that sea of purple, and to see people turn around and look and think, well, who are these people? Because, it's just when you see nothing but purple, it really draws your attention. And I can relate, Pat, when I first started with Advocacy Day, we were in one room, and we all got to share stories because there wasn't that many of us. And now, like you say, we've extended number of conference rooms, and now they have to just ask a few people to share their stories. So it really has grown. And as a survivor, thank you for continuing that, because I know it's very important, and I'm sure Tyler is thrilled that you are continuing to honor his name, because I think this is one of the best ways we can honor those that we've lost, is by continuing to bring awareness and to make things better for those people that will be coming on. unfortunately. And I know a lot of times, when we go through this, we want to run away, but you and others ran too. And can you just give a little insight? I know it's because of Tyler, but the others that you're doing it for as well, very appreciative.
Right. Yeah. So I think we talk about this a lot, is this purple family is something that nobody ever thought about joining or wanting to be a part of. But because of this horrible disease that takes 90% of people that are diagnosed, we get to be around other people and other people that are affected, other patients. And I think just meeting them and getting to know them, like I've known you for over a decade now too, the love and the connectivity and the sense of family, or in Hawaiian, right, ohana, so going back to Lilo and Stitch, leaving, ohana means family, and family means nobody's left behind or forgotten. And I think that's very key to this purple family, and I think it's important for me to continue fighting for everybody else that I've gotten to meet over the years and become family and friends with. And it's disheartening when we hear about people that lose their battle against pancreatic cancer. It's just really rough for us.
It is, and I thank you very much again, like I said, and I know we're the family nobody wants to be a member of, but it's a family that I've been very grateful for. So thank you to all those who are part of that family. I know we're getting kind of low on time here, but very briefly, I know there's other ways that you are staying involved. Can you just give us a little bit on what you're doing with the OC affiliate right now?
Yeah, so I have, since returning back to Southern California, I've taken on the role as the affiliate chair for the Orange County affiliate of PanCan. So pretty excited about that. And obviously you're part of the affiliate as well. So we have an amazing group of 16 core volunteers and a lot more volunteers that are out there that participate and help us out in meeting our vision and our goals of, to create a world where all patients with pancreatic cancer will thrive. And I think it's really big that we have a lot of support here in Orange County. And, we have a goal. PanCan has a goal to drive the 5-year survivability from 10% where it's at right now to 20% by 2030. So I think that's key. We all team up together. We go forward. We'll have some November awareness events coming up that we're really excited about. So you'll be seeing those posted on our social media and website. And Purple Stride, April 30th, out here tentatively out in Bolsa Chica State Beach. So we're excited for that. So hopefully everybody comes out and supports that.
Great. And thank you. And I want to leave a little bit of something, as I know on Tyler's obituary, it said, live as if you'll die tomorrow and dream as if you'll live forever. Sorry, I got that backwards, but I thought that was something really important, because that is something that I know he said, and I think he really believed. And one other thing, I'd like to thank you very much for coming and sharing your story. And also Tyler's wife, Ava, wrote something that I thought was very prominent as well. She said, hug your loved ones and pray to experience a life as rich and full as Tyler's. Tyler may have been a very young man, but I think he lived a very rich and powerful and full life. And for that, I thank him. And I do miss him, seeing him every year at Advocacy Day. But thank you for coming, JB. Thank you for being here. Thank you for serving our country. And real quick, you want to give a plug to your own podcast that you have?
Oh, yeah. It's thank you. Thanks for having me. My own podcast is called Life and Times with JB. So it's just found wherever podcasts are found. I'm a little bit behind, but I'll catch back up and do some more podcasts. So,
well, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking on the Orange County affiliate chair. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your story and for bringing Tyler back with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to get some living hope. It's a weekly journey here designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer. Sharing the real-life stories of those affected by this disease and how they and their friends and family deal with it on a daily basis. And if you'd like to share your story, please. We're always looking for people to come forward. Just contact us here at OC Talk Radio. Or if you know anyone who needs help, like right now, maybe they just started this journey, confused, scared, don't know where to go, there's a place. Just contact Patient Services at 877-2-PANCAN. That's 877 and the number 2, PANCAN, for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. For the OC Talk Radio Network, this is Paul Roberts inviting you to come back each and every time and join us as we stream live from the Cove here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.